Welcome to the Tier 1 trainings for the CAIU Assistive Technology Process. We're going to start off our trainings with taking a look at what is AT. So the definition of AT in federal and state law is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether it's acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, and is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. So we're actually going to take this definition and break it apart and look at some of the key words and key aspects of this information. So AT is a very broad concept. So it can be any item, piece of equipment, or product system. So when we think of AT, a lot of times people typically think of a communication device. A lot of times they are high tech, not necessarily, but when I talk about AT, think about what picture comes to your mind. AT doesn't have to be something that is very complicated or very high tech. This screen here has some pictures of different types of AT. So pencil grips could be AT. If a student needs a pencil grip in order to hold their pencil correctly so that they can write, that's assistive technology. Another example down in the bottom right corner is a koosh ball. So holding a koosh ball to help them with their grip. A slant board is another example. And then we do have those higher tech items, such as Chrome apps or eye gaze systems or iPad apps that we'll talk about. The other thing that we have to remember when we're thinking of assistive technology are apps. There are tons of new apps available that are helping people with disabilities overcome a functional deficit. So there's apps that are made specifically for specific functional deficits, and then there's apps that anyone uses that can be really viewed as assistive technology depending on how the person is using them and whether they need them to function. So for example, I use my calendar on my phone almost every day. For me, it's not assistive technology. For me, it is a piece of technology that's helpful in my life. However, if I am a student who is identified with some sort of executive dysfunction and I really have difficulty maintaining my organization, my time, maintaining or understanding what is due, keeping due dates, keeping assignments, keeping tasks organized, I can put those things into my calendar, and that calendar then becomes a piece of assistive technology to help me with my functional deficit of time management or executive dysfunction. Assistive technology, the next part of the definition says it's acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized. So there's plenty of items that can be acquired and used as is as assistive technology. So one example would be the positioning equipment, which is shown here on the right half of your screen. Certainly there are mounts and things like that that can be purchased for use with a wheelchair user to mount certain things to their chair. They can be purchased as is, applied to the chair, and used. They can also be modified. So the example on here is called lock line, and it's plastic pieces that can be assembled together and reconfigured so that it works for whatever the user needs it to be. So that's an example of something that's modified or customized. If you look on the left side of your screen, there's an example of a little, I think it's an elephant or a mouse glove that is used to help students isolate their fingers so that they can hold their pencil or their crayon in that situation correctly. Down the bottom, we see a glove that's probably from the dollar store or something like that, that has just the tip of one finger cut off. And this is another example of something that is purchased and then modified and customized for what they need it. So this student, I'm assuming, probably has issues with isolating a finger. And if they're using a touch screen and they're touching on multiple points of the screen and not able to access that the way that they need to, then this is a great modification that someone has done so that only that one finger is touching the screen. So it doesn't have to be something that is labeled and marketed as specifically assistive technology. It can be everyday items that are used to get the job done, whatever that job may be. AT is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. So, these are some examples of ways that technology is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities. A personal FM system can be used to increase access to auditory information through a hearing aid. Um, the hearing would be the functional capability, and that piece of technology is used to increase or improve that. Text to speech software, visual support, speech to text, organizational tools. Those are all helping students and individuals who have some sort of functional deficit be able to overcome that deficit to be able to function better with with their disability. There's three categories of AT typically that we think of. There's no tech AT, so this could be things like pencil grips, adapted paper, communication boards that are just printed, sometimes laminated for students to use to point to different things. Graphic organizers can be assistive technology if a student has difficulty with organization, say, for example, during writing, and they need to have that visual support of putting their thoughts in place on a graphic organizer, then that for that student is an assistive technology support. When we look at low tech, we think of things like calculators, word processors, uh, augmentative and alternative communication devices that have static displays so they don't change, books on tape or CDs with audiobooks on them, things that don't require very, very high tech items to be used, but do require a little bit more technological know how in order to use them. And then the last category we talk about is high tech. So this would be maybe a dynamic display AAC device that changes based on when the student where the student touches it. An eye gaze system, so maybe a communication system that a student uses their eye gaze to control. Text to speech software, and then apps and extensions as part of a computer or an iPad or a tablet. That a student would have to go in and manipulate on an electronic device. So that's a little overview about assistive technology, and the three websites on the left of your screen have great information about assistive technology, and I would encourage you to look at them. So the first one is the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative, or otherwise known as the WATI. The second one is the QUIET, or the Quality Indicators of Assistive Technology. And the last one is the Patent website. If you go on patent.net, you can click on the Educational Initiative section and select Assistive Technology. And there's lots of general information and then also information that is specific to Pennsylvania. So I hope you enjoyed this overview of assistive technology.